We're talking about Branded to Kill from 1967, directed by Seijun Suzuki. First, in his own words, I'm just going to read this paragraph about being a B-movie director. This is a quote from 1991. If you hear the word B-movie, you will probably laugh heartily, but a B-movie director has his own worries. In newspaper ads, the main feature usually has the most prominent place, and I'm way down at the bottom. The B-movie director's biggest worry is the question, what effect will the main feature have that is shown before your film? Films from Nikatsu usually have the same plot. The main character falls in love with a woman, he kills the bad guy, and gets the woman. This pattern is repeated in every film, so you concentrate on finding out all you can about who the actors are, who the director is, and the approach this director has. This is what the B-movie director does. For instance, the main features director has a habit of filming a love scene in a certain way. This means that I have to handle it in another way. The director of the main feature has it easy. He doesn't have to find out how I work at all. He can just do whatever he wants. So actually, a B-movie director has a harder task than his colleague who does the main feature. Because of this, the studio should give me more money than him, actually, but it's just the other way around. So, Branded to Kill. I copy and pasted this from Wikipedia. Let's go. Goro Hanada, the Japanese underworld's third-ranked hitman, and his wife Mamie fly into Tokyo and are met by Kasuga, a formerly ranked hitman turned taxi driver. Kasuga petitions Hanada to assist him in breaking back into the profession. Hanada agrees, and the three go to a club owned by the Yakuza boss Michinuko Yabuhara. The two men are hired to escort a client from Sagami Beach to Nagano. After the meeting, Yabuhara covertly seduces Hanada's wife. Hanada and Kasuga pick up a car designated for the job, which unexpectedly has a corpse in the back seat. They dispose of the body, then meet the client and proceed towards their destination. En route, Hanada spots an ambush. He dispatches a number of gunmen while Kasuga panics and flails about in hysterics. Foaming at the mouth, Kasuga charges an ambusher, Ko, the fourth-ranked hitman, and they kill each other. Hanada leaves the client to secure Ko's car, but hears 3 gunshots and rushes back to find the client is safe, and 3 additional ambushers have been shot cleanly through the forehead. At a second ambush, Hanada kills more gunmen and sets Sakura, the second-ranked hitman, on fire. Sakura madly rushes toward the client and is shot dead by him. On his way home, Hanada's car breaks down. Misako, a mysterious woman with a death wish, stops and gives him a ride. At home, he has rough sex with his wife, fueled by his obsession with sniffing boiling rice. Yabuhara hires Hanada to kill 4 men, the first 3 being a customs officer, an ocularist, and a jewelry dealer. Hanada snipes the first from behind a billboard's animatronic cigarette lighter, shoots the second from a basement up through a pipe drain when the latter leans over the sink and, ordered to finish quickly, blasts his way into the third's office and escapes on an advertising balloon. Misako then appears at his door and offers him a nearly impossible contract to kill a foreigner, which he cannot refuse having just been told the plan. During the job, a butterfly lands on the barrel of his rifle, causing him to miss his target and kill an innocent bystander. Misako tells him that he will now lose his rank and be killed. Hanada makes plans to leave the country, but is shot by his wife, who then sets their apartment on fire and flees. His belt buckle, however, stopped the bullet, and he escapes the building. He finds Misako, and they go to her apartment. After alternating failed attempts by him to seduce her and then to kill each other, she succumbs to his advances when he promises to kill her. Afterwards, he finds he cannot, as he has fallen in love with her. In a state of confusion, he wanders the streets and passes out on the side of the road. The next day, he finds his wife at Yabuhara's club. She tries to seduce him, then fakes hysteria and tells Yabuhara that paid her to kill him and that the 3 men he had killed had stolen from Yabuhara's diamond smuggling operation, and the foreigner was an investigator sent by the supplier. Unmoved, Hanada kills her, gets drunk, and waits for Yabuhara to return. Yabuhara arrives already dead with a bullet hole through the center of his forehead. Hanada returns to Misako's apartment, where a film projector has been set up. It depicts Misako bound and tortured and directs him to a breakwater, where the following day he is to be killed. Hanada submits to the demand, but kills the killers instead. The former client arrives and announces himself as the legendary #1 killer. He says he will kill Hanada, but, in thanks for the work he has done, is only giving a warning at present. Hanada holds up in Misako's apartment, and #1 begins an extended siege, taunting Hanada with threatening phone calls walls and forbidding him to leave the apartment. Eventually, number one moves in with the now exhausted and inebriated Hanada under the pretext that he's deciding how to kill him. They agree to a temporary truce and set times to eat, sleep, and later to link arms everywhere they go. Number one suggests they eat one day and then disappears during the meal. At the apartment, Hanada finds a note and another film from number one stating he will be waiting at a gymnasium with Misako. Hanada waits at the gymnasium, but number one does not show. As a bedraggled Hanada rises to leave, a tape recorder switches on, explaining this is the way number one works. He exhausts you and then he kills you. Hanada puts a headband on his forehead and climbs into a boxing ring. Number one appears and shoots him. The headband stops the bullet and Hanada returns fire. Number one slumps to the ground but manages to shoot him a few times before dying. Hanada leaps and staggers around the ring, declaring himself the new number one. Misako enters the arena and, crazed, he instinctively shoots her dead, then falls from the ring. And that is Branded to Kill in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so RJ, what did you think of Branded to Kill?
Well, Jer?
Well?
I think that might be the longest synopsis of all time for a movie that had no fucking story. I'm gonna lay it down for you like this, baby.
Yeah.
Branded to Kill, also known as Art House Yakuza.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool.
Yep.
I think it's got some pretty neat shots. I think all the kills are very cool. Everything looks really good. His art house stuff is very nice, with the butterflies and the cutting to faces saying things like Mantis, Toboggan, things like that. I think that's all very neat. But I don't think this movie is very good. That's not fair. I don't really like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure some people really like it.
Mm-hmm.
People who are into that abstract, I don't know. Art house is the only way I know how to describe it without sounding like an asshole.
Okay. Well, you go for it. Be an asshole.
Be an asshole.
Yeah.
I don't know. It all seemed like abstract, expressionism, where it's like butterfly, it's beauty, it's life. Butterfly on the barrel. Oh no. And then there's walls with drapes of butterflies, and it's like, I want to kill you, but I want to rape you first, baby. Stuff like that.
Smelling that boiling rice.
Smelling that boiling rice, which is the weirdest trait to give a character. But I mean, hey, I bet there's a dude out there who just gets off smelling boiling rice. So I guess it's got that going for it. These movies are pretty sexually aggressive, which isn't a bad thing. But there's a sex scene on a staircase, which I question entirely, because it's so impractical. No one would be having fun in that scenario. No, I think it's a cool movie. I can see why it's in the collection, but I don't really like it for certain reasons. I don't think there's much to the story. Mm-hmm. It was kind of hard to follow, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, the kills are really cool, and I like some of the other things that he does in it. It's super stylized, but I feel like he would have been better off doing something super arty, something like David Lynchian, where it's just you just be I don't know what the fuck is going on, because that's what happens sometimes when I watch David Lynch. So sometimes I don't understand David Lynch, and I feel like it's because he does whatever he feels like, which isn't a bad thing. And I feel like this guy was trying to still be able to pass this off to people, where he kind of had his own flourishes, his own stylistic stuff, but he also tried to accommodate enough to crowds where people wouldn't be I don't know what was going on. So, and I know what you're going to say. You don't have any problem interpreting David Lynch, but there are times when I watch David Lynch movies where I don't know what's going on, and I don't hold it against those movies because I like all his movies. But watching Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, there are certain scenes where it's I don't know what's going on, but I still think those movies are really good.
Right.
So, anyways, I think this is a cool movie, but I didn't really like it.
That's fair. Okay, so I don't really like this movie that much either, honestly.
Nice.
Yeah, so I agree with you pretty well. So my history with this movie is I've watched both these movies years and years ago. I think I watched these on DVD, like the Criterion DVDs that were first out way back when, with the very colorful covers they had back when. And at the time, so this is like early 2000s, I thought they were really cool, weird, wacky Japanese movies. Like, whoa, man, I can't believe they make movies like this in Japan. Like, at that point, I probably hadn't seen a lot of like 60s Japanese movies, let alone Yakuza movies. And I just assumed that like all these movies were like this, or like Takashi Miike movies. Like, that's all that country produced was stuff like that. Like, they made samurai movies like Kurosawa, or they made these weird 60s Yakuza stuff. Okay. And so at the time, like, yeah, these are really neat. And actually, it's funny. Like, I was thinking about Warren Ellis, the comic writer, while I was watching this, because like he's one of those guys that would have just been talking about something called like Mad Beautiful Ideas. And like this would have been a movie that people would have been like, oh man, I can't believe it. These movies are so great. They're just like just mind blowing. So that would have been like good enough when these would have been released on DVD back in 1999, when there was not a lot of that stuff available in North America yet.
Right.
15 plus years later, we live in a world where like there's tons of this stuff out now, and now we actually get way more stuff from the 60s. We have like a much better like grasp of like all the different movies that were coming out back then. And now we can kind of like, I've seen like way better stuff from the same window of time, and I'm like, yeah, these are really good. And like there's like, I mean, these movies are like fairly unique in their own regard. Like we're talking about their like the production design, and like there's like a real anarchic spirit to these movies, which I'll get into, because not only did neither of us care for this, the studio Nikatsu also hated his movies a lot, to the point where they actually they fired him over this particular movie, and he was like blacklisted for like a decade in Japan to work on like major studio movies.
I don't find that surprising.
Well, because like, yeah, I mean, I'll get to it, but anyway, so I don't know, watching this movie again, like nothing about it drew me in. The whole time I kept like thinking like, oh, this is like, it starts off kind of like promising, like it's really like, it looks great, the cinematography is really good. It's these just like killers with sunglasses. They're like, I already kind of expecting like, yeah, it's like a crazy Japanese manga about like killers that are all vying to be number one, and like cool, I get that idea, but it doesn't go in that direction. It's, I don't know, like, have you ever heard of a Go-Go 13? It's like a.
I have. I've never experienced it, but I have heard about it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like kind of like, I was expecting, I guess, something along those lines, which is kind of more like what Tokyo Drifter's like, but at the same time, I don't know. There's just something like, I don't know. I didn't care the whole time watching these movies. Like, there's like, most of my notes consisted of like, well, that was a cool killing. Like shooting through your own windshield, but then the windshield doesn't shatter at all. Like this weird, choppy, weird editing. But like, that's like comes down to like, this movie had like really low budgets. Like these, like, we're talking like probably Roger Corman like levels of budgets, and just trying to make it like kind of as exciting, visually interesting movies as you could. But like, dude bumping off that building, that looked pretty awful. Full body burn Running Man, that was pretty good.
You know what I wrote down? That guy was on fire forever.
He was running to that body of water. Yeah.
You know what scene I really liked, actually? When they were driving in that convertible and it was raining. I thought that was really nice. Yeah. I liked it. It touched me inside.
Popping a dude's eye out. That like, I was like, what the hell? Like, I don't remember that.
Do you want me to read my exact note on that? Gross ass eyeballs. Weird.
Yes.
Because I didn't know how else to describe that.
And then it was weird. Yeah, and then right after that, like immediately you get the faucet kill, which is like, oh, that's good. That's novel. That's good. Interesting.
Well, yeah, and I was like, did that guy shoot up that pipe?
Yeah, right through. What? Yeah, he did.
That's like some Clive Owen shit right there.
Yeah. Then you get the hot air balloon escape
That made me laugh.
Yeah, I think
was like, come on.
I'm pretty sure it's like that movie. It's a silly movie. And then I wrote weird male female Japanese dynamics. As a man just as old artificially augmented cheekbones, Joe Shishidi just slaps the shit out of people, and men or men just slapping the shit out of women in this movie. And then butterflies.
Yeah, that butterfly stuff. Have you ever seen that Sigur Rós music video with Shia LaBeouf?
No.
So Sigur Rós had a contest to make a music or like for people to make a music video to one of their songs, and Shia LaBeouf. Actually, I could be misquoting this completely, but there's a music video of Sigur Rós with Shia LaBeouf, and in that one, it's super art house. He's like licking lollipops and like doing yoga with this girl and stuff, and there's like butterflies everywhere. I'm gonna send you a link, and I'm gonna get you to watch it. But that's what it reminded me of. That whole like 12-minute segment where there's just butterflies everywhere, and he's throwing them up in the air and he's squanching them, and yeah, it was weird.
Big A art.
Yeah, big A art.
Yeah. Yeah, so another note here is this movie has one of the most extensive Wikipedia entries for almost any of the films we've watched, which is all true. This movie's got a ridiculous Wikipedia page. And then note of Seijun Suzuki was kind of infamous for making movies that didn't make any sense.
That makes sense.
Like, I don't even think that was the movie's problem, that it didn't make any sense. Like, I understood what the movie was. It just, like, I don't know. It kind of failed. It failed to work as a movie should. Like, to, like, I don't know, present you with a character that, like, you care one way or another about. Like, I didn't hate the character. I didn't like the character. I was just kind of like, oh, he's doing his stuff. Like, he just kept doing scenes and doing stuff. So it was kind of hard to, like, root for any of it.
No, I agree with you. Like, I knew what was supposed to be going on.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. They're like all contracted killers and whatever. Like, I got all that too. It's just like, it's like what you said. It's like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
There's nothing that brings you into it.
I guess, like, for me, probably the real highlight of the movie and, like, probably the funniest stuff was, like, when killer number 1 and killer number 3, they're just, like, hanging out together in the apartment building. That stuff was really good. Like, I thought that stuff was, like, the strongest.
That was really cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just, like, I was pretty indifferent to the whole thing. So I'm very disappointed, I guess.
Was this one of the ones that you questioned? Were like, why is this in here?
No, like I said, like kind of like what I was saying at the beginning, like in 1999 when this first came out, I think it made way more sense. I'm amazed that they've gone back and repackaged these with the Blu-rays that they did, because the Blu-rays look really nice.
Yes, they do.
And but yeah, it's curious because, like, I'd love to see like Great Expectations and Oliver Twist come out on Blu-ray.
Fucking right. That's my man, David Lean.
Yeah, but those elude us because I think these movies are just more popular. It seems like a lot of like movie collectors will like gravitate toward that Japanese stuff. I know I do. I mean, the reasons I have these both are because of like, I love Yakuza movies and I love Japanese Criterion, so I snagged them up. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of was like watching them again. I was like, oh, there's really like, I don't know. I think there's just so many better versions of these movies or like this type of story that exists. Like as to give an example, God, what's it called? It's like the Battles Without Honor or Humanity, which is like very different. Like it's more like it's more Godfather than like these are like pop movies, but like that's like an amazing epic series of movies. They're like there's 5 parts of them, and they're all like pretty good on the whole, and really great characters, and there's a good intensity. The violence is ridiculous, but not this kind of like cartoony pop stuff. But I mean, those are amazing, and they're available now to watch. And it's like, oh, these would be better Criterions. But Arrow Video is putting those out, and they've actually put out 2 Nikatsu Diamond Guy collections, which I imagine probably have more movies along these lines, but maybe they're better. I don't know. Seijun Suzuki is actually fairly well represented in the Criterion Collection. We'll be seeing more of his movies down the road one day. But
I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'll go through what happened with Branded to Kill probably after we talk about Tokyo Drifter, I think.
Yeah, I think we've said I was going to say maybe we should just move on and we can talk about all this stuff together.
Okay. So after the break, folks, we're going to talk about Tokyo Drifter from 1966. Beep, boop. And finally, we're talking about Tokyo Drifter from 1966, a year prior to Brandy to Kill, but for whatever reason, it's spine number 39. So here we are. Run through the plot synopsis, also supplied from our good friends at Wikipedia. Tetsuya Hondo is a member of a recently deactivated Yakuza gang. His boss, to whom he holds absolute loyalty, Kurata, has given up the life of crime for himself and his syndicate. Otsuka, a rival gang boss, attempts to recruit Tetsu into his organization, but is turned down. After failing, Otsuko sends an assassin to neutralize Tetsu, fearing he will interfere with a real estate scam. Looking to profit from the scheme himself and fearing that his group is threatened by his presence, Kurata asks Tetsu to leave and live the life of a drifter. Otsuka and Kurata join forces and assign the successful hitman Viper Tetsuzo to kill Tetsu. Tetsu evades Viper and his hit squad a number of times and arrives at the establishment of Umatani, an ally of boss Kurata. God damn these names. Tetsu returns to Tokyo, confronting his boss who betrayed him. He kills everyone in the room besides his boss and former girlfriend. At the end of the movie, Kurata kills himself and Tetsu rejects his former girlfriend Chiharu's plea to allow her to accompany him on his travels. He exits down a pure white hallway, explaining that he has a new allegiance to the wanderer lifestyle and cannot abandon it for the company of another.
Jeez.
So, RJ, what did you think of Tokyo Drifter?
I think it's way better than Branded to Kill.
Okay.
But there's still not much there.
Yeah.
It's at least a coherent like movie. Like you can kind of follow it a lot better. I think his style comes through a lot more. The use of like colors and stuff like that are really good. The way he either paints an entire room or has lighting in certain spots, like the color just comes through and it's magnificent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can tell that, because one of the things, too, is, it's weird with Brandy to Kill, which came a year later, is that he didn't have color. And the only explanation for that, honestly, would be he had less money for Brandy to Kill. They cut back his budget, and they're like, yeah, this is what you get to make. And they were hating on him, which I'll get into. Tokyo Drifter gets to embrace the full color thing. On the Blu-ray, there's an interview with him and his production designer, and just talking about, his, love of production design. Hey, that's something, people really should focus on, even though, your average movie goer doesn't probably think about production design in any thoughtful way. And we were just talking about it tonight about Alien Cubed. How that's the most noteworthy thing about that movie. But I mean, that's a different level of
for sure.
Scale too, that obviously would not have been available at Nikatsu Studios at that point in time.
For sure.
Yeah. My only two notes for Tokyo Drifter is, hey, two men again, and intensely wearing your sunglasses.
Yeah, those are both very accurate descriptions of this movie.
Yeah.
I think this movie is way better, but I think it has a lot of the same problems. But this one I found I had a lot of notes for. Not just notes, just observations. My trademarked observations.
Yeah.
At the start, they had that Reservoir Dogs shot where all the guys are walking in their suits down the pier. I was like, I bet Quentin Tarantino's seen this movie. Yep. And I'm sure he has.
Yeah, there's Quentin Tarantino and Jim Jarmusch and John Woo, all directors who have been mentioned on this very episode so far. They all talk about how they love these movies.
They're wrong to love them, but I mean, I can see why. Like I said, the style and this director's flourish or own flourishes and stuff like that. I can see that because I can see how all of them have taken from that. Samplings, if you will, such as the name of the jazz club, the Manhole, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
Years ago, friends and I, we'd laugh about a gay bar in Calgary called Manholes.
Manholes?
I was gonna say, I don't even know if it existed, but we just thought the idea that would be that's the name of a great gay bar, Manholes.
Well, I was gonna say if there was a bar in Creepsville here called Manholes, I would be a regular there. I'd go there every goddamn night because that's so funny. I would just because the people who would go to that bar too, you'd get two types: the dudes who take it very literally, which right on. And then the dudes like me who would just be like, man, that's so fucking funny. It's like, why wouldn't I want to go? Why wouldn't you want to drink there? It'd be like, where are you at, man? Manholes. Getting down on the manhole. It's fucking awesome.
And people go,
Yeah, people would be like, where?
Why would you drink at a place called Manholes? Anyway.
Yeah, anyways. So I had that. I thought the false elevator was very cool. Where they like close an elevator and then he opens it with his own hands and then just falls into like a hole. I was like, oh, that's neat. But then it didn't amount to anything. So that's weird. Did you notice that this movie also doubled as an advertisement for the hair dryers?
I didn't pick up on that.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I think I honestly probably zoned out watching this.
Two separate times, and it's separated by like 30-40 minutes. There's a scene where there's two ladies in a club or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, that's a good gizmo. What do you got there?" And it's like, it's the 96 5000, like the Frost Guard hair dryer, and she's like blowing her hair, and I thought it was really weird. I was like, "That's weird." And then like half an hour later, the dude, like the main character, is blowing drying his hair too, and then the older guy comes in. He's like, "What is that, like the 86?" And he's like, "Yeah. How did you know?" He's like, "Oh, I'm not a young man. It's like I know what hair dryers to use." And I was just like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Is this movie like they must have been endorsed by the fucking hair dryer company, and that's how he probably got the money to make the movies." It sounds like he couldn't get the money from anyone else. So I thought that was I thought it was very bizarre, and that's weird. There's a scene where a guy's running in the woods and then a leg comes out from a tree and trips him, and it's never explained, and I thought that was weird. There is a bar fight scene, which I actually thought was really fun, but it's a little too late. And there's a scene where a guy's looking up a dress, and then all of a sudden all this white fluffy mush falls on his face.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck is that supposed to be? I don't get it. I don't get it. And then my last note, and I'm not going to give you any context for it. It's just a lot of talk about rubbing dudes out. So there's about 15 minutes where people are just talking about rubbing another guy out, and I was just like, what is going on in this fucking movie?
Lots of giant white rooms.
Yeah, giant white rooms, and yeah, it's bizarre, man. It's bizarre.
Yeah. I just feel like I should recommend other like movies, like Japanese things that I've watched that from like the same period of time. That's like, hey, people should just watch this instead. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know watching Tokyo. I don't know. This movie, like, it's only like 82 minutes long, and I just was like, oh, it's not over yet. I don't know. I wasn't feeling either. I just wasn't feeling in the mood to watch this sort of stuff. And I don't know. It's my failing, but I don't know. I don't have any rush to change my mind on it either. Like
no, I'll speak to that a little bit. I think Branded to Kill absolutely is not very good. I think Tokyo Drifter, I could see why people like it, but I'm in the same spot as you. I didn't really much care for it, but it's way better than Branded to Kill, and it's super stylized. So I can see why all those directors named it as like a big inspiration or something. But
yeah. I just
where we are now in time, that's my 2 cents.
Jesus Christ. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna skim through movies from the 60s that I've watched from Japan that are better. Ooh, there's a good one. Throwing it out there. It's a horror film. Where'd it go? It's got a really unusual title too. Oh, it's lost. Never mind. It's lost to time, RJ. No one can.
Just like us.
Just like us. Oh my God, I can't. There's this one called Blind Beast though. It's a kind of like a horror movie, but it's amazing. I couldn't recommend that movie more strongly enough. And it's like various like similar sort of like over the top kind of production value, but it totally makes sense. Like there's actually kind of purpose to it. It's not just stylization for the sake of making like really great production values pop or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm failing here pretty hard. There's a Nikatsu Eclipse series box set they put out with movies like with great titles like The Rusty Knife and I Am Waiting and A Colt Is My Passport, which are all like, I don't know, they're all similar. Like, I mean, I think Japan was probably putting out a ton of these like gangster movies at the period, like because they were just popular, and they're all like interesting in their own ways. Like this one called Cruel Gun Story, great title.
Sure.
And they're just like, they're all cheap, but I don't know. Probably a little. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like coming from the studio standpoint, like who again hated his movies. Which maybe I'll just touch upon that.
Just
So
get into it, baby.
okay, so. On April 25th, 1968, Suzuki received a telephone call from a Nikatsu secretary informing him that he would not be receiving his salary for that month. Two friends of Suzuki met with Hori the next day and were informed that Suzuki's films were incomprehensible, that they did not make any money, and that Suzuki might as well give up his career as a director as he would not be making films for any other companies.
Nice.
Yeah. So at that time, the Student Film Society, called Sin Club, was sponsoring a major retrospective of Suzuki's films, meant to be the first in Japan to honor a Japanese director. It was scheduled to begin on May 10th, but Hori withdrew. I'm assuming that's like the head of Nikatsu. Hori withdrew all of his films from distribution and refused to release them to the Cine Club. The students were told that Nikatsu could not afford to cultivate a reputation for making films understood only by an exclusive audience, and that showing incomprehensible and thus bad films would disgrace the company, adding that Suzuki's films would not be shown for some time in theaters or by the Cine Club. So like I've never I don't know if I've ever heard of like a studio going to bat to like just destroy some guys that like cost them money, like where they just like I've never heard of this before, but this like kicked off like a bunch of like issues about like breach of contract and like freedom of speech, and like so Cine Club as a student organization in like 1968, when like there was like student uprisings all across the world, I mean they were probably pretty motivated to like prove a point here. So yeah,
bad films.
Bad films.
Sad.
People just dumping all over old Nikatsu or Nikatsu and Suzuki here. Suzuki eventually he sued the studio for like 380,000 yen, whatever that would have been in 1968. Demanded he get a letter of apology to the three major newspapers on account that Hori's statements about him gave the impression that all of his films were bad. He then called a press conference with representatives of the Directors Guild of Japan. It was like a big thing, which I think would probably also add to the reputation of Brandy to Kill as being sort of like a rallying point for like directors. I don't know, freedom to make things. But it's like, it's a really weird thing, right? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, directors, if you're making movies for a studio, you're kind of at the behest of the studio to like make a profit and stuff like that. It's like a really strange art form, right?
It's what Zack Snyder's getting right now.
Yeah, I mean, he is the modern day Seijun Suzuki, I think.
Yeah, no kidding. But I feel like in time, his movies will be more well regarded. But these ones have already had 50 years to sit and whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just they're not the film for now. They're just not. But I don't know. I think there's people that like these movies a lot. Anyway, he wound up getting blacklisted because this like went on for like 3 years, like this back and forth, and people being sued, and it was very public in Japan. That's like a big deal when stuff like this gets public, because usually you're supposed to deal with it privately and discreetly. And anyway, Nikatsu, they wound up just like delving into the world of softcore pornography, and they went on which is called Roman porno.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah, I've got a whole book on this stuff called Pinku. Like it's like genre. It's a sort of thing. Oh yeah, all the sick fuck movies that I'm ashamed to have watched, like movies of titles like Serial Rapist. They all kind of start coming out of this studio for the next decade. So I don't know what they're really proud of here.
Yeah, well, all that happened now is that you just told everyone how much of a weirdo you are, and I'm not going to be surprised if they pull our show off SoundCloud tomorrow.
Yeah, it's too explicit.
Well, you're too explicit, baby.
Yeah, too hot for podcast radio.
Too hot to handle.
Yeah. Oh yes, yeah. Blind Beast from 1969 is a great film. People should watch that instead. Horrors of Malformed Men, also a great number. The Woman Who Wanted to Die, all these great titles. The Face of Another, Woman in the Dunes, all good.
All good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, they're not gangster movies per se, but I don't know, they have that same spirit. Anywho, RJ, who hates these movies?
Us, I guess.
I would never say I hate them. I just would be like, no, I don't know. And I should also throw out that our viewing of the Tokyo Drifter Blu-ray was courtesy of friend of the show Lawrence, who donated his copy because I only had a old version of the DVD that I got from Blockbuster. So we got to watch. We got to watch HD versions of or HD version of Tokyo Drifter this week because of him.
Big L, huh? If he's a friend of the show, which I know he is, how come he never writes in? Come on, Lawrence. Where's that Frank guy who wrote in one time? Where are you people?
These people, these freaks.
Yeah, where are you? Come on.
Yeah.
Get back into it. Anyways, sorry. Keep going.
So who hated Brandon to Kill? Sarah gave this half a star.
Good
Actually,
job, Sarah.
from just over a year ago, completely awful. I thought we were all dying for sure because everyone was falling asleep, and oh my god, I can't believe I wasted my life on this. Ugh.
Wicked. That's a good review.
Emily, she gave this 1 star. She begins her review. Ugh. Mostly just dudes shooting each other and beating up ladies. Also boring and confusing for the first half. Second half was just waiting for the main guy to die boringly.
These are all pretty accurate reviews.
Matt gave this 2 stars. I like the idea of this film more than the actual finished product. It looks incredible and is very well made, but the meandering plot left me feeling unsatisfied and frankly bored.
That's what they say about me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who hated Tokyo Drifter? I have one guy here I picked out because he had a cool username called The Movie Vampire, and he uses a Nosferatu for his avatar.
The actual Nosferatu or Joe Hill's Nosferatu?
Klaus Kinski.
Okay.
Poster
Klaus
version.
Kinski or Werner Herzog's Willem Dafoe's Nosferatu?
As a longtime enthusiast of the Criterion Collection, I've spent a great deal of time looking through the esteemed distributor's catalog, and 2 of their discs that always jumped out at me were Seijun Suzuki's Branded to Kill and Tokyo Drifter. Why did these films jump out at me? Because the cover art of their original release was truly awesome, pop art at its finest. When it's come to actually watching the movies, well, that hasn't been such a great experience. I think I watched about 20 minutes of Branded to Kill once and ended up sort of casually turning it off and thinking, I'm not feeling this. Maybe I'll give it another chance someday. Seeing its companion film, Tokyo Drifter, I'm reminded exactly why I wasn't too thrilled to keep going the last time I gave Suzuki a chance. Seijun Suzuki was known to have had a lot of quarrels with the studio over the years because they felt his films were incomprehensible. And frankly, I don't blame them. Suzuki is a filmmaker that seems generally more interested in energy and audacity than traditional storytelling, or any other kind of storytelling for that matter. He's sort of a punk rock filmmaker. I'd probably have a lot more respect for that if I thought that his visuals were as interesting as he thinks they are. The film is consistently odd, but not memorably odd. The action scenes were messy, but not transcendently messy. The story was generally muddled and not in an intelligent way, and as far as sheer Japanese craziness goes, I've seen crazier. What we're left with is just a mess of a movie that I never even made any kind of connection to. This isn't the kind of movie I want to watch. This is the kind of movie I want Quentin Tarantino to see and then turn into something that's actually watchable.
Shit.
I'm giving this movie a low score, but I don't necessarily hate it. I'm just profoundly indifferent to it. I might go so far as to say that it's the oddest movie to bore me. And I think that's pretty good.
Yep. That is very good. That guy laid it down, man. We should get him to do this show.
Yeah, you're welcome aboard, The Movie Vampire. That review's from 4 years, almost 5 years ago. Maybe The Movie Vampire's dead.
Maybe he's president of the United States. Nobody knows.
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Well, any last thoughts before we leave Seijun Suzuki for now? We've got more of his movies to see one day down the road. Maybe
I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, he's the new Fellini.
No. No. I don't want to watch either of their movies ever again.
Well, sooner than later,
I'll watch 8.5 again.
Yeah. Well, you'll be watching.
I'm not going to watch.
Oh shit! Well, that's down the road. Well, hey folks, we're done. After the break, we're going to go get blacklisted by our studio for the next decade.
That might happen though.